Let me say my greeting. Good morning to our friends in North and South America. Good afternoon to our friends in the UK and Europe. Good early evening to our friends in the Middle East and India. Good evening to our friends in Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia. Good late evening to our friends in Australia. Nice to see you all. Hope you are well. Before we answer the questions, Jesse, I might just say a little bit of some news in my life and give a bit of an update. What is happening in Untitled Bhikkhu's world? So we have 3 simultaneous building projects going on in the monastery now. And a lot of people probably won't know this, but a part of modern forest monks' life seems to be actually building the monasteries that we live in. It's a way that the money goes further if the monks help. So in my monastery, we didn't have to pay an engineer or an architect. Ajahn also did that. So, and it's a wonderful opportunity to develop new skills and make some merit. Of course, if monks get too busy with these things, the mind can get a little bit scattered, and it's always a matter of trying to find balance. One of the ways that I've practiced with the building side of my life is to have 1 year where we do some building and another year where we don't. It's oftentimes been 6 months and then 18 months without. Another thing that I do is I will run around getting everything set up, delegate a bunch of things, explain everything, and then I will leave the monastery in the middle of the building project. This was something I wanted to mention because I think it's a good strategy sometimes when if we want to training ourselves not to become fully identified with things and not to become too controlling. And also if I'm in the monastery where there are 3 building projects, I will send my mind out to them because I have to be responsible for them. When people have given funds to become a certain thing, I'm the abbot, they trust me, then I have to be responsible. So I will be as responsible as I can, and then at a certain point I disappear. I did my bit. I told everybody what they're supposed to do. Now I'm going away. So this time, 2 friends in Singapore, friends and students, Cliff and Linda, have invited me to some of the holy mountains in China. It's been a couple of thousand years of Buddhist history in China, and a few mountains became synonymous with certain bodhisattvas in the Mahayana tradition in Chinese Mahayana Buddhism. And they also became pilgrimage sites. One of the pilgrimages, an important part of my life. And I expect that because I do lead others on pilgrimage is part of the reason that I just got invited to go on one. When you help other people to have these kinds of opportunities, then they can come back to you. So I have wanted to go to some of these mountains for about 20 years. And I have been to one called Putuosan, which is an island in South China Sea. At one point, it had, I think, 900 monasteries, and most of them were nunneries about a millennia ago. And when people do spiritual practice in a place for more than 1,000 years, I think you'll appreciate that some energies, blessings seep into those places. And obviously modern China is different to China 1,000 years ago. But even so, I believe there are certain blessings there. But one of the nice things about going on an official pilgrimage is it's like you're giving yourself permission to take a period of time where you devote yourself to spiritual activity wholeheartedly. It's just such a wonderful kind of an archetype, the pilgrim, somebody who walks away from their normal life and I'm very fortunate because my normal life, even with 3 building projects, still has quite a bit of time for meditation. But it'll be very nice to leave behind the projects. It's just 2 weeks away, and so I'm going to a place called Mai Shan, Jiu Hua Shan, and Pu Tuo Shan. And for those of you who have some interest, Mai Shan is associated with a bodhisattva called Samantabhadra. Jiu Hua San is associated with a bodhisattva called Siddhigarbha, and Puto San is associated with a bodhisattva called Avalokiteshvara. But of course, they all have main shrines with images of Shakyamuni Buddha, our Buddha, and we're going to pay respects to Shakyamuni Buddha with gratitude. And having had discussions with my teachers, there are bodhisattva practitioners in Theravadan countries, and there have been plenty of arahants in Mahayana countries. So the scholars tend to like to argue about who's doing what where. The practitioners tend to just knuckle down and do the practice, and those that want a lot of peace quickly tend to choose the faster path. Those who have an altruistic inclination tend to choose the scenic route. I'm going to take a bit of a scenic route. So please pray for my safe travels and safe return. I will dedicate merit to all those karmically connected to myself. One of the things I like to do in these holy mountains, one of the things that mountains lend themselves to, they tend to make these very grand and beautiful staircases made of granite. And then it becomes possible to do a practice called 3 steps, 1 bow, with Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and then you bow, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and you bow. And there's various prayers that you can do. It's also kind of a sacred archetypal posture to take while you're walking up a very long and beautiful staircase with the Buddha on top of the mountain. It's such a wonderful kind of analogy. And and people don't bother you when you're doing that. People, okay, he's doing the 3 steps, 1 bow. They tend to leave you alone. You create your own sacred space, sacred aura around you because you're doing a sacred activity. And some students of mine, we did this in Puto-san some years ago. It was nearly 400 bows, and I think the average age of the group was close to 60, and everybody did make it up the 700 steps or whatever it was. It must have been nearly 1,000 steps. I think we did take 2 hours. And but you can, 1, 2, 3, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, bow. 1, 2, 3, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, bow. And but there's other things you can grow. May I grow in dana, sila, bhavana, grab. Dana, sila, bhavana, bow. May I realize anicca, dukkha, anatta, bow. Anicca, dukkha, anatta, bow. May I develop may I grow in the 3 types of wisdom, the wisdom that goes from listening, the wisdom that grows from listening, contemplating, the wisdom that grows from deep contemplation, the wisdom that comes from meditation practice. So there's that mantra, Teyata Gate Gate, Om Gate Gate, Paragate, Parasangate, Bodhisoha. Go further, go even further into Bodhi. And I tend to like to chant that mantra as I go up these staircases, Om Gate, Paragate, Parasangate, Bodhisoha. And when I attended His Holiness the Dalai Lama's teachings, he said that actually means the 3 types of wisdom. Go further, go even further into Bodhi means cultivate wisdom through contemplating and meditation and direct insight. So I'll be doing that. I'm doing some bowing practice here at Anandagiri because I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to still walk after the first day in China. So I've been doing some, after the evening chanting, I've been bowing up our little hill kind of several times, trying to get my fitness level up. So that will be nice. And if I make it back safely, I'll look forward to sharing probably a slideshow and some the monastery helped me upgrade my phone after 5 years. Upgraded my phone so that I've got a better camera. I can take some nice pictures to share with you. Just yesterday, got the new telephone. So, yes. Another thing that just happened 20 minutes before this talk was His Majesty, the Thai King, just announced in the Royal Gazette that he has given me another honor up my title. The royal title is of that's what this bing 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 is. I'm about to turn off my phone. A lot of people, yes, JC's got the celebrating. I'm going to turn my phone off because it will get a bit. So that's it's an interesting thing as a monk to practice with worldly praise, titles, honors. I think it is important to be gracious. So one can't just ignore it. You have to learn how to be gracious with it. And then there will be those who will be saying, oh, wonderful, Ajahn is wonderful. I'm so glad he's getting this title. He really deserves it. This will help him to help other people. And there will be those that say, he doesn't deserve this. He didn't deserve the first one, let alone the second one. This is premature. What's the Thai king thinking? And then there'll be those who think, well, I deserved it much better. And there'll be those who say, these monks that get deluded by their titles. So I have an interesting opportunity to practice with worldly dhammas. And but if the world gives you an honor, you should be gracious. And being gracious is one way to be modest. So I am grateful to His Majesty. And for those who think it may be premature, then that's my opportunity to grow into the role of being more selfless. Wish me all the best. I believe we have some questions. JC.
Yes, congratulations, Raj Chao Kun.
Thank
And
you.
we wish you a smooth, safe, and blissful trip as well. And we look forward to all your beautiful sharings after that.
I look forward to sharing. I probably write a journal, and I hope to share the journal with you if I can get the
Okay.
internet working from China. Let's see how that goes. But
Sadhu.
I will try.
Question 1, dear Ajahn. Please accept my deep gratitude for your time and teachings. For one who is just learning how to chant, what chants do you recommend learning first? Thank you.
For one who's just beginning to learn to chant, which chants do I recommend first? So the very beginning is the Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato times 3. Then you have the Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Sanghang Saranang Gacchami, Dutiyampi, Tatiyampi. And then I would do the praise to the three jewels, the verses that start with Itipiso Bhagava, Soa Kato Bhagavato, and Supatipano Bhagavato. So these verses, praises to the three jewels, very beautiful. So one can do it as a contemplation. And it's very common for people in Thailand. A lot of people do a little bit of chanting before they go to sleep, and they might do that chant 3 times or 7 times or 9 times. They do it as a bit of a contemplation, but also as a samatha practice when you do something in repetition. Some people do it 108 times. Some people do it 36 in the morning, 36 in the afternoon, 36 in the evening. Various ways that you can relate to it, but it's a wonderful chant to learn. And then the next one I would do would be the Ratana Sutta. So these are so I believe the verses of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha were recited by Indra, apparently, in praise of Lord Buddha. A good word of the Blessed One's reputation has spread as follows. He, the Blessed One, is indeed the pure one, the perfectly enlightened one, impeccable in conduct and understanding, teacher of gods and humans. So there you have a Deva saying, he's my teacher. He is awake and holy. Very beautiful. Impeccable in conduct and understanding. Awake and holy. Knower of the worlds. Teacher of gods and humans. So that's a good place to start. Our refuge, our teacher, our guide. But the Ratana Sutta, the Lord Buddha composed the verses himself, and it was in response to famine and pestilence in a place called Vaisali. And he told the people in that town to recite these verses, and the famine and the pestilence, the flooding did go away. And was also the occasion where he made holy water and had Ananda go into the houses of the townsfolk and splash the holy water. So it became a bit of a tradition in Buddhist countries to chant the protective verses and make some holy water and bless a person's house or business. But that tradition does come from Lord Buddha himself in the township of Vaisali. Then I think moving on, a good one would be either the Mangala Sutta or the Metta Sutta would be a good follow-ups. All the best with that. Chanting is very powerful. I've told the story before. Ajahn Pavaro he lived with me, wonderful monk, good friend of mine, second monk in Canada now, lived with me for about 8 years. And he had hit his head, probably here at Anandagiri on a workbench when he was getting up in a hurry. He hit his head and he had a little bit of a bleed on the inside of his skull that he didn't actually know about. And it wasn't until he flew back from Canada, and there was a couple of long haul flights with that higher, when higher altitude, your body expands and different air pressure and things. Probably that blood things in there, a bit more fluids came out, and then where that the bleed had hardened, was pressing on his mind in the area of memory, and he lost his memory. He came back to Malaysia, and we had this great chat over coffee in a coffee shop in Kuala Lumpur with some of our long-time term students. And then the next morning he woke up and he didn't really know where he was or who he was, and we needed to get him some help. But when they took the pressure out of his brain and the blood clot wasn't pressing on the part of the brain associated with memory, he woke up in the post-operation room wearing a blue operation smock, seeing only Asian faces, not having his robes, not having his bowl, not knowing where he was. And what happened was he just thought to himself, oh, well, I must have had some kind of surgery. And I'm in a hospital, obviously, and I'm in Asia, but that's all he knew. But rather than panic, he started chanting the Metta Sutta quietly to himself in his post-operation ward. And you can see how this daily meditation practice, when it goes in deep, it becomes part of long-term memory. And one knows, as a Buddhist monk, if you're in a situation that might be dangerous, you recollect metta. Lord Buddha said to chant these verses as a protection. So it was really wonderful to see the results of someone who's been a good monk for more than 10 years. When they wake up in a difficult situation, he's chanting the Metta Sutta to himself quietly. Then I kind of walked in, I kind of wanted to see what state he was in. I says, what's your name? He said, I'm Pavaro Bhikkhu. Who's your Rupajaya? Ajahn Pasano. Who am I? He says, you're the abbot. What's my name? Ajahn Achalo. I said, okay, it's back. It's back. So fortunately, he didn't seem to get any permanent damage there once the pressure was taken out. But it was a wonderful thing for myself to observe. Oh, look, this daily chanting practice really does go in very deep. This practice of Dhamma really is a refuge. And it's like sometimes you need a walking stick. If you're going through difficult territory, you need a crutch. And this is something that you can depend upon. So particularly for people, Westerners have less issues in this area, but for Asians, tends to be a lot of fear of ghosts. So when people are scared, something they can do is chant. When the monks went to the jungle and all the charnel grounds, the places where the monks would go to places where they knew there were tigers and go to places where they knew there were ghosts to work with their fear and to make the awareness of death more real in the moment, palpable, urgent. And they would chant to keep their mind from becoming overcome with fear. They would recollect these verses, praises to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, praises to the three jewels, words on loving kindness. So all the best with your chanting practice, very rich and beneficial. Also a great way to prime the mind to meditate. If we do some chanting before we meditate, the thinking mind is already calming down, already becoming a bit more focused on spirituality. Then it tends to be easier to be with the meditation object.
Thank you so much, Ajahn. Question to the Ajahn. One of my friends has neck arthritis and can't sit long in a meditation pose. What do you suggest? Is it okay if she lies down whenever her pain starts? Thank you.
A person has arthritis in their neck, they get pain after sitting. Is it okay to lie down? So I would suggest staying in a sitting posture, formal sitting posture, as long as this person can tolerate, for a few reasons. So probably the pain's not so bad right in the beginning. So try to make the mind as peaceful as you can before the pain starts to get more serious. And then practice some patience with the pain. And one of the things you can do is like count breaths. Okay, it's getting painful now. So, okay, count 10 in and out breaths, breathing in one, breathing out one, breathing in two, up to 10, and then back from 10, 10, 9, 9, 1, 1, and then see, do I need to move or can I do 10 more breaths? If it's sometimes it's like, oh, I can't stand it, you do those 10 breaths and it's like, it's fine. And then try and do it again if you can. The reason we do this is that practicing with pain sharpens mindfulness. If we kind of too hurry to try to find comfort, the mind is more likely to fall into what they call laxity, dullness, sleepiness. So if we sit upright, make the effort, sit as long as we can, we need to watch if the mind is becoming overwhelmed with the pain and developing a lot of resistance and aversion, irritation. Okay, don't let it get to that point. Use the breath to calm the mind. Practice with it to the degree that you can, and then mindfully lie down. And I would be probably careful. I would probably leave a light on in the room or leave the curtain open. You want some light so that you don't fall into a dreamy, sleepy state. And so, yeah, practice with it as much as you can, and then lie down and continue to practice. And similarly, get the pain dies down a bit. You notice the mind's getting a bit drowsy. You're about to fall into sleep, so sit up again and do a bit more sitting, and just keep working with it in that way. Many people have that sense of, I'll sit for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, the mind got peaceful. Okay, meditation's over. Go and do something else for the rest of the day and the night. You don't have to do that. You can compose the mind and have another session, meditate a bit more, and sit as long as you can. Lie down, relax a bit. Okay, get up, sit a bit more. And, I wish this person all the best in working with their pain in that way. And I hope they develop a lot of clarity and patience, using it as something to work with, to cultivate noble qualities. The metta practice, I think, also very powerful. You can support yourself in the process of being with and practicing with pain. So I do that a lot if I'm doing the practice in Bodh for the many hours a day, and there's pain, more and more pain in the body. It's like if you're generating loving kindness in the heart area, then you're having this like parallel experience. There is pain in the knees, there's pain behind the shoulder blade, and there's a pleasant feeling in the heart. Breathing in, may I be well. Breathing out, may I be happy. Breathing in, may I be well. And that pleasantness in the heart just makes it possible to keep, just stay. And then sometimes the mind will find, being with the breath consistently, will find a very spacious, cool, peaceful place. So the metta practice can help us to keep with our meditation object until the mind finds some peace. At the very least, we have the pleasant feeling that comes from the metta. So I hope that's helpful.
Question 3, dear Ajahn. A friend has observed that my husband is a very selfless person and that he is always be willing to sacrifice his own comfort to help others, which is very true. He can also afford to offer more dana than I can, as he has more income. So my friend said that he will go to a higher realm than I. Is this true, Ajahn? I don't have as much money to offer, however, I do regularly offer dana. perhaps not with as such money, but with a lot of effort. I used to wake up at 4:30 every day for almost 2 years to chant and finish my 1 hour of morning meditation session. I'm also giving up a lot in my life so that I can practice more and help out with the Ajahns and the Buddhist community. I also tend to be more consistent in the practice. Though I haven't been waking up as early as before, I've been either practicing meditation or chanting every day consistently for the past 4 to 5 years. I would rejoice if my husband, who I love dearly and only wish good things for, went to high or even a higher realm. However, what she said got stuck in my heart, and I have some confusion. Are my efforts not producing similar good karma? Thank you, Ajahn.
So karma is tricky to understand in its complexity. And this is sometimes we have to take what Lord Buddha said on faith if we can't see it all. But Lord Buddha did say that the bhavana, the chitta bhavana, produces more merit than the giving of material things, the giving of money and giving of time. So I think part of it is it's like the level of clarity, brightness, radiance in the mind. This is actually producing merit. It's one of those things that you can't see. Some things you have to take on faith. And you have examples when someone becomes an arahant and they say, yeah, it's true. When they're able to review their past lives and look at what were the causes that made their liberation, their insight, their development of samadhi possible. It started with dana, sure, and virtue. And then there was a lot of effort with the mental cultivation. Now, the merit that comes from mental cultivation, really knuckling down and being diligent, consistent in the practice, is producing the kind of merit that will ripen as insight or ripen as samadhi. So when a person gives a lot of material things, then it's likely that in their future lives, they won't want for much. They will have abundant surroundings. They will have good and fine food. They will live in a place which has benevolent weather, that kind of thing. The result of being generous towards others makes their lives more comfortable. So you get a certain amount of comfort and abundance coming back, the result of giving materially. If a person trains themselves to recollect the generosity that they did and makes their mind glad, then you can take your being generous as a meditation object as well. A person can do both, practice a lot of dana and then recollect that dana to brighten and gladden and make their mind happy. This was one of the things that Lady Visakha did when she wanted to offer bathing cloths to the monks and she wanted to offer food to traveling monks when they were arriving or as they were leaving, or sick monks. And Lord Buddha asked her, why do you want these privileges? And she says, when I think that every monk that came into Savatthi and every monk that left ate at I will be so happy, I'll be so glad. And when my mind is so joyful, so happy, so glad, my mind will become peaceful and still. And Lord Buddha says, this is true, this is correct, this is skillful. I will grant you those honors, those opportunities. So it's all of it. It's giving materially, giving of time, giving one's money. It produces good karma if you're giving it to worthy objects. Chanting, meditating, produces merit, produces good karma. Then, as this lady I know, she supports Ajahn in some of his retreats and helps with translation, things like that. So helping others to meet with the teachings, helping others to have their opportunity to practice, this also produces merit. So I don't know if I know these people, but I don't know if the husband will go to a higher realm or the wife will go to a higher realm. But you're both aspiring to liberation, so we set that as our goal. You're setting it as the goal that you want insight and liberation, and you want to keep practicing. And then, yeah, it depends there's two things. It depends on the general level of the mind throughout the life, kind of on an average, median, and the moments at the time of death. Those two things are the most important thing. But I know these two people quite well. They're very sweet, and I think they're both going to happy destinations. And I heard a story. I won't mention names, but I know of a story where some people who knew each other in their past life, some were born in Tushita and some were born in Dawatingsa. And apparently the ones in Tushita still loved their, depending on the relationship, the son, the younger brother, and the Deva in Dawatingsa was able to visit Tushita, and apparently he could get a visa, but not permanent residency. And so if you love each other and you rejoice in each other's merits, it's possible. If one's in Dawatingsa, can go up and visit Tushita. Similarly, the Tushita Devas can come down and visit their friends in Dawatingsa. Remember, apparently Lord Buddha taught his mother in Dawatingsa heaven, and she had to come down from Tushita. In her life after being the Buddha's mother, she was born as a male Deva, and then she came down. She heard the teachings in Dawatingsa. The reason Lord Buddha chose to teach in Dawatingsa was so that the Dawatingsa Devas could hear it as well, and the Devas from the Chatur Maharaja, the lower realms. But those Tushita Devas could come down and listen. So there's some porousness in the heaven realms. You can visit one another, encourage one another, even if technically one is in a higher realm. But we don't know, do we? We don't know exactly how things pan out. We just keep cultivating as much goodness as we can in whatever ways present themselves to us. But I do think it is important to contemplate this idea that bhavana creates more merit, because it's something that we won't work out by ourselves. We kind of have to take that on trust. Lord Buddha says it, the great disciples say it, the arahants say it. There really is tremendous value to sitting down, being quiet, trying to make your mind still and bright. It's enormously beneficial and helpful to your process. So I encourage you in your dana, sila, and bhavana. If you don't finish your work this lifetime, I wish you a happy destination with much coming into contact with Dhamma.
Question 4. May I know if one knows their deeper intention, but they cannot let others know as one is selling, pitching a particular product or program? Will it be breaking the fourth precept? Is this a subtle form of lying, as it's not possible to let others know the true intention? Also, is it true that business and Dhamma has to be aligned in order for a business to truly flourish? Thank you.
So obviously it's good to be mindful of our intentions and be mindful of how truthful we are being. People do need to make a living, but I think if it's clear that you're a person selling a product and the person that you're talking to has some interest in that product or that service, as long as that's clear, you're not being deceptive, then I'm assuming that if the person is willing to have that conversation, they have some interest in that product. And so you're doing your job. You're talking about the benefits of that product. The thing to be mindful of is, are you being deceptive? Are you saying that the product is better than it actually is? Are you aware that there's maybe some harm in the product and not telling? So that's what one has to look at. Am I being transparent about just how beneficial this is? Am I being transparent about the fact that now is work time and I'm trying to sell you something? So I think it's like just being clear about that. You are working, you have a product or a service, you're talking with people about your product and your service, and don't deliberately deceive. But yeah, when you're doing a job in sales, you have to present things on the positive side, don't you? I mean, that's, yeah, you're not going to be able to sell everything. And you say, yeah, this product's all right, I suppose. It's, you do have to pitch your product, but as long as it's not a harmful product. With regards to the second part of the question, one has to align with Dhamma in order for their business to be successful. Unfortunately, that's not true. a lot of very successful businesses are based upon, sex, violence, addiction, and making people addicted and fascinated, entertained. So that those things can make a lot of money in the short term. In the long term, does your business have to be aligned with dhamma to be successful? How do you define success? So your long-term success is you don't deceive people because you don't want to be deceived. You don't encourage people to be unskillfully attached or addicted or intoxicated because you don't want someone to make you addicted or attached or intoxicated. So unfortunately, forms of wrong livelihood make a lot of money, and people get very deluded by it with the materialism and the status symbols that come from being materially successful. And I think it's in this day and age that it's a matter of how much sila people around us. It's probably getting harder to have a successful business if you're very virtuous. It's where a lot of Buddhists have to learn about contentment and the middle way, and how to practice contentment with less if we're not willing to make compromises. So in the long term, aligning your livelihood with Dhamma will make your business successful. The business of being a contented and happy person, going to heaven and beyond, to Nibbana, that's the business that we are most interested in. So yes, don't be deliberately deceitful. Just be clear. I'm trying to sell you something. Are you interested in these things? These are its good points. Just be transparent. And if you know there's something bad about the product and you're not telling the person that's probably not. We just have to be mindful. It's not like rules that things that we can get away with. I'd like to encourage people to think of it in terms of the karma that you're making. If there's something harmful about a product and you're trying to sell it to a person, you're not telling them the harmful thing, somebody's going to come and convince you to take a product that has some harm to it. So this is why you want to put out only what is good and wholesome and truthful and beneficial, because you want the people who come to you to be trying to relate to you in a way which is wholesome, truthful, skillful. There's no dagger behind their back, no hook. So that's why one of the main reasons we be truthful and transparent, come from good intentions. Hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Ajahn. Question 5. Dear Ajahn, what questions can I ask myself every month to assess whether my meditation practice is on the right track, helping me to become a better person? I want to ask myself these questions because if it is not working, then I will ask a meditation teacher to help me refine or totally change my meditation technique. Thank you so much.
This question is trickier to answer than you might think. What questions to ask myself once a month to know if my meditation is working? So the problem is our habits are thousands, perhaps millions of lives deep. And our meditation practice doesn't necessarily change our habits quickly. So trying to review things, I mean, it's normal for modern people who have a shorter attention span and less patience. It's normal for us because we've been conditioned that way to expect fast results and to assume that something's going wrong if we don't get them. Unfortunately, we can't really take that attitude with the practice of Buddha Dhamma, because one of the signs of growth is if you actually notice the negative qualities in your mind. Whereas in the past, you're blaming other people, you're avoiding it. Now you've developed more clarity, you're meditating more, and you're noticing, oh, that was a really nasty thought. Oh my God, that desire is quite evil. Oh, really? I have moments where I could actually kill somebody? Wow. It's like, in the past, it's like you're looking at the news. Okay, he's a serial killer. He's a psychopath. She's a, demon from hell. And it's like, then you're meditating And I say, oh, I'm the serial killer, I'm the psychopath, I'm the demon from hell in moments. And this is actually a sign of growth. You see how your mind is affected by greed, how your mind is affected by hatred, and how strong that can be in moments, and be truthful about it rather than distract yourself, avoid it, blame someone else. So it's a tricky question to answer. One of the things that I would describe shows success in practice is a more of a quality of truth discerning awareness, clarity, so more truthfulness and more clarity. And the result that this should have in one's mind is it makes one less judgmental and more humble. So your practice, in terms of pointers, your practice shouldn't be creating a bigger ego and more of a sense of self. You shouldn't be, there shouldn't be more self-righteousness and more judgmentalness. There should be an awareness of, oh, wow, these things that affect our minds, that push us around, are really powerful. And I'm affected by them to quite a significant degree. And when you realize that, then when you see that people have even more of those qualities affecting their mind, there's actually some compassion for them. It's like, wow, their minds are affected by that stuff even more than mine is. So more compassion, more humility, more clarity, more truthfulness, and then a lot of patient endurance as you have to just observe how much negativity there is in the mind. And it doesn't go away in a hurry. And practice isn't really about making the personality or the mind perfect. Practice is about seeing things arise, stay for some time, and cease. Seeing things arise and knowing their characteristic. That's wholesome, that's neutral, that's unwholesome. And then we keep plugging away at that, and then there starts to be more insight into cessation. All of these things stay for some time, and then they all cease. And so there's that sense of knowing when you're affected by a mind state that it's going to change. So even though it's invading the mind, affecting the mind to some degree, there's this knowing that it won't stay, it's going to pass. And then that helps us not act on it. We just have to be patient. We have to wait out our unskillful mind states and then notice them change and notice them cease. The more we can do that, the less identified we become with our mind states, but they don't go away. Even a stream enterer who's had a profound insight into not self and experience nibbana, they still have greed and hatred to contend with. They still have quite a bit of work to do. The next level, the sakadagami, significantly ameliorated greed and hatred, but they still have some. I'm talking about like the second level of sainthood, they still have craving and aversion. And then the anagami still has some vanity. It's like, so this is actually important to contemplate this sometimes, because if you're coming and you're sitting, oh, that's so vain, oh, that's so greedy, oh, that's so hateful, it's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to make it go away. It's like, don't judge yourself. It's like you have to know these things. You have to get more and more space around them, more and more distance from them, act on them less, but don't expect not to have them. You have to contain them, contain the greed, contain the hatred, contain the vanity. Try to have it within skillful parameters, not overflowing, outflowing too much, and understand their nature. It's like, yeah, when there's this sense contact and that feeling, there tends to be craving. This sense contact and that feeling, there tends to be aversion. You learn how it works, the way the sense spaces and feelings affect the mind and the way the mind reacts. And then you learn to get some space from the reaction and understand that it will cease. And then you notice when it ceases. And the mind will get, over a period of many years, more peaceful and more clear and less affected by these things. So one of my teachers, Ajahn, was talking a couple of decades into his practice. He says, the content of the mind doesn't change that much, even after a couple of decades of practice. But what changes is the awareness around it, and how the awareness around it understands that content. So we're talking about pretty subtle things, right? What changes is your quality of awareness and how you relate to the phenomenon in the mind. But a lot of the phenomenon in the mind is the same, decades into it. So yeah, like I said, it's not as easy a question to answer as one might think. We have to be quite patient. And I don't know if once a month reviewing is mine's a much, it's a long apprenticeship. Let's just put it that way. And you might have some good months and some rough months. And I think the important thing is you just keep going. And one thing I believe in general is that if you keep plodding along with the same method, rather than change around too much, you probably get better results. Something about consistency, that the fruits of that practice will ripen with you. Just keep putting in the effort and plodding. So wish you all the best.
Question 6. Why are some people blessed with long life while others have to live earlier? Thank you.
Yeah, in general, Lord Buddha did say the very first of the 5 precepts, panatipata, uveramani, sikkhapadang, samadhiyami, I undertake the precept to refrain from killing, taking the life of any living creature. Lord Buddha explains that, well, firstly, all beings want to live and no being enjoys or being killed. So the fear and the anxiety and the unpleasant feelings that those other beings experience, that's making a certain type of karma that will tend to ripen in experiences that make you feel that way in the future. So that's very dangerous. But the other thing is, the more life one takes, the more likely one's own lifetime will be shortened. So imagine you've been wanting to meet the Dhamma, finally get a life where you can practice, and then your life gets cut short. It's a real tragedy. So one of the reasons we chant, Ayu Wana Sukhang Balang, and we chant the blessing, may you have a long life. I think the real meaning of that is, may your opportunities not be taken away and cut short. Now that you've met the Dhamma, may you have the opportunity to practice it as long as possible and benefit as much as possible from it. So yes, if a person dies quite young, it's generally understood that they probably killed a lot of beings in their past life. But having said that, we all did. So we've all done that. And probably we all have the karmic potentiality to have our life shortened. And the difference is, have we also made potent merits which are conducive to extending one's life? So that's where things get a bit different. We've all in past lives killed chickens for food, caught fish, gone hunting to feed the family. Like, that's part of the human experience and of a lot of people. But did we offer medicines? Did we release? Because once people begin to understand things like karma and merit, people will go and get some fish from the market and release them back into the river. Turtles, eels, crabs, those kind of things, quite common in Thailand and Malaysia, Singapore. People go to the fish market where there are fish that are going to be eaten, buy them, and go and release them. So that you're making a kind of an antidote type of merit. Imagine the crabs, they get all tied up with string, and when you snip that string and release them, that feeling of being released from a painful experience. So it's helpful if one is able to do that. I think in Western countries it's not as easy. Things tend to be in the fridge already and already significantly reborn. But in Asia, you can go and make some beings have less suffering and have a longer life. And we might call it, that's enough for now, JC, I think. Yeah, about 45 minutes.
Okay, Ajahn, let you go back to your long list of messages.
Messages to answer. Yeah. So thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.